p.m. Our roll call, we're missing a couple. All commissioners are present with the exception of Daryl Eisenberg and Jennifer Henricks. I haven't heard from, I know Jennifer Henricks is trying to get in. I'm not sure. I haven't heard from Daryl Eisenberg, but I think Jennifer's trying to get in right now. Can she call in, Martin? She's...
Yes, she can call in if she has the email, or she should have the email. Okay. There are instructions with the event number inside of the meeting to be able to call in.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'll let her know that. Tonight we have one item on the consent agenda. I believe that's right. Which is the, we have two items on the consent agenda. Approval of the minutes from February 1st, 2021, and the approval of the excused absence of Commissioner Daryl Eisenberg from the February 1st, 2021 P&Z regular meeting. I have a motion for approval on these. Does anybody have any comments?
Commissioner Earl, so moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Hearing a motion and a second on this consent agenda. All those in favor, please signify by raising your digital hand. Motion passes 5-0. See, I see an attendee. Okay, that's not Commissioner Heinrichs. All right. Moving on to item A. Consideration and possible action, replat of Riverstone Ranch at Clear Creek, Section 11, partial replat of Reserve C and D, Plat 21-00008. This is a request of Zach Zars of LJA Engineering, Inc. on behalf of Meritage Homes of Texas LLC owner. To approve the replat of Riverstone Ranch at Clear Creek, Section 11, partial replat of Reserve C and D, creating two reserves on 28.740 acres. The location is north of Country Club Road, east of Prayerland Parkway, and south of Berry Rose Road. Can I get a motion for approval?
Commissioner Boswell, so moved.
Commissioner Fuertes, second.
Hearing a motion and a second, can I get a staff report, please?
Hello, this is Vince Husted, city staff. The purpose of this partial replat is to add an emergency access and a detention easement. Other than that, it will not change the boundary lines of the two reserves in question. The next slide, this replat meets the review criteria found in the review criteria found on the code conformance table. Staff does recommend approval of the replat of Riverstone Ranch at Clear Creek, Section 11, partial replat of Reserve C and D. The slide that shows the map with the area outlined in red, I must explain that the Reserve C is just a tiny strip of land in the bottom south half of the area shown in red. A great majority of the area shown in red is actually Reserve D. The next slide shows the northern portion of Reserve D. And then finally, the last slide shows the Reserve D, where the detention easement will be located. And then the emergency access is on section C, which is a narrow strip of land that's as narrow as 10 feet wide in some places. The emergency access is about 30 feet wide. The purpose of the emergency access will be to provide a secondary access to the future Riverstone Ranch, section 14, that will be platted to the south at a future date. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Shelby, could you help Commissioner Eisenberg, please? Trouble attending the meeting.
Okay. What does he need help with?
I sent him an attendee link or a number to call. The number to call. I think I did anyway.
I don't have his phone number, but I do have my phone number up and ready if he would like to call me at my office phone number.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. Sorry about that. All right, Commissioner. Sorry about that. Thank you, Vince. Commissioner Earls, do you have any questions or comments for staff?
I do not. Thank you.
Commissioner Boswell?
Nothing. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Dansby?
Just a quick question. Is this obviously wasn't platted before? Is this just an adjustment in the ingress, egress, emergency exit kind of thing, or is there some reason that it changed? Just out of curiosity.
It's basically to add the emergency ingress, egress on Reserve C, and plus there's that detention easement that's being added to Reserve D.
Okay. Nope. Other than that, I'm fine with it. Thank you.
Commissioner Fortes?
Nothing for me, thank you.
I don't have any questions or comments either. We have a motion and a second on the floor, so let's go ahead and vote. All those in favor, please signify by raising your digital hand. Motion carries 5-0. Thank y'all. Thank you, Martin. Item B, consideration of possible action. This is a preliminary plat of Stewart Heights, Section 21, Plat 21-00006. This is a request of Zach Zars of LJA Engineering, the applicant, on behalf of Savannah Development LTD owner, for approval of the final plat of Stewart Heights, Section 21, creating 66 single-family lots and 6 reserves on 15.834 acres of land located in Fort Bend County, north of Post Road. The location is north of County Road 58 and west of Savannah Parkway. Can I get a motion in a second?
Boswell, so moved.
Thank you.
Commissioner Earls, I second.
Thank you. Staff report?
This is Vince Husted, city staff. For the record, this is actually the final plat of Stewart Heights at Savannah, Section 21. To create 66 lots and 6 reserves. It is located in the ETJ in the Lakes of Savannah development. This final plat does meet the review criteria found on the code conformance table. Staff does recommend approval of a final plat at Stewart Heights at Savannah, Section 21. There is also a aerial map that shows the location of property in the city of Prayerland, ETJ. And the last slide shows the configuration of the lots that will be within the final plat. And that concludes my presentation.
Pardon me, Vince, this is Lawrence over in the legal department. Could you tell me what notice was posted on the agenda that was posted outside the building, and the agenda that, well, the agenda I have says it's a preliminary plat. I'm concerned about us moving forward on a final plat approval.
The whole time it was supposed to be a final plat.
I understand that it was supposed to be a final plat. My question is, what was posted on all of the agendas that were posted?
Lawrence, to answer that question, the header of item B says preliminary plat, but the description of the item says approval of the final plat. So I will leave that up to your opinion as to which is the leading example of whether the text in the body outweighs the text in the brief header description.
I would recommend that we move on to item number C as I research that issue. Typically, it's the caption that is controlling, and the caption is typically the things that are in bold. But I do want to verify before I move on. So I don't want to hold the meeting up, and I would recommend that we consider item C. So we'll just postpone or pass on this item to a later point in this meeting and move on to item C as I try to research this issue.
Okay. All right. Moving on to item C, consideration and possible action. Final plat of Post Road Street dedication, section 1, plat number 21-00007. This is a request of Zach Zars of LJA Engineering, applicant, on behalf of Savannah Development LTD owner, for approval of the final plat of Post Road Street dedication, section 1, dedicating a 60-foot wide section of right-of-way for Post Road west of Hawthorne Village Drive on 2.070 acres of land. The general location is north side of Post Road west of Hawthorne Village Drive. Can I get a motion in a second?
Commissioner
So
Boswell.
Sorry, go ahead. Commissioner Dansby, I second.
I got a motion from Commissioner Boswell and a second from Commissioner Dansby. Thank you. Do we have a staff report for this?
This item, the final plat of Post Road Street dedication 1, is to dedicate a 60-foot wide section of right-of-way on 2.070 acres of land in the Lakes of Savannah development. This right-of-way dedication will be on the north side of County Road 58 west of Hawthorne Village Drive. This final plat meets the criteria of approval found in the code conformance table. The final plat of the Post Road Street dedication, staff is recommending approval because this meets the criteria for approval found in a final plat. The next slide shows the location of the property in the city of Prayerland, ETJ, and then the final slide shows the configuration of the property under the configuration of the property that will be dedicated for the right-of-way for the Post Road Street dedication, section 1. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Commissioner Boswell, questions or comments?
No questions or comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Dansby?
No, ma'am, no questions, no comments. Thank you.
Commissioner Earls?
This is so the street can be widened, correct?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. That's all.
Commissioner Henricks is in the meeting now. Martin, I don't know if you wanted me to.
No, I think that was great. Thank you.
Commissioner Fortes, any questions or comments?
No, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. And Commissioner Dansby, I asked you, didn't I?
Yes, ma'am, and I have no comments.
Okay. Commissioner Henricks, did you have anything?
No, I have no comments.
Okay. And I think I got everybody. And I don't have any questions or comments. I think we've covered everything. So all those in favor signify by raising your digital hand, please.
Lainey, count me as raising the digital hand.
Okay. All right. All right. Motion passes 6-0. Y'all can clear your hands now. Thank you. Item D, consideration and possible action. This is a preliminary plat of Charleston Heights Detention Reserve, plat 21-0009-00009. I think I got enough zeros that time. There's a request of John Camarillo, the applicant, on behalf of Charleston CMI Ltd owner, for approval of the preliminary plat of Charleston Heights Detention Reserve on 25.38 acres of land. Is located on the north side of State Highway 6 on the east side of the Brazoria-Fort Bend County line. Can I have a motion in a second, please?
Commissioner Fortes, so moved.
Thank you.
Commissioner Dansby, second.
Thank you. Vince, do you have a staff report, please?
This item, the preliminary plat of Charleston Heights Detention Reserve, is to create one detention reserve. It is located on the east side of the boundary of the Brazoria-Fort Bend County line within Brazoria County. This preliminary plat meets the criteria for approval of a preliminary plat found in the code conformance table. Staff recommends approval of the preliminary plat of Charleston Heights Detention Reserve because it meets the criteria found in the UDC for approval of a preliminary plat. The next slide shows the location of the property, which stretches from about where a space or an area just slightly north of State Highway 6 all the way to a Post Road or County Road 58. The final slide, the long portion of property has been, it shows with the north part of the property on the left-hand side of the slide. Southern portion is shown on the right-hand side of the slide. Previously, earlier this year, the Planning Commission had approved the preliminary plat of Charleston Heights Detention Reserve, but this is a revision that will dedicate a street right-of-way along Post Road at the north end of the plat. So this preliminary plat would supersede the previously approved preliminary plat. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Commissioner Fortes, do you have any questions or comments for staff?
No, ma'am. Thank you.
Commissioner Henricks?
I have no questions.
Okay, Commissioner Earls?
Nothing for me. Thank you.
Commissioner Boswell?
No questions or comments. Thank you.
Commissioner Dansby?
No, ma'am, no questions, no comments. Thank you.
And I likewise have no questions or comments. So all those in favor signify by raising your digital hand, please. And I see Commissioner Henricks is raising her digital hand. So we have 1, 2, 3. We have all those in, And motion passes 6-0. Thank y'all.
And just as a means to keep the agenda moving smoothly, Lawrence, have you had time to consider item B? Would you like for us to move to discussion items?
Yeah, I think it's best to move to discussion items. I'm still in a browser trying to research the other. I haven't found the exact issue online, but I'm looking.
Understood. Okay. Then Ms. Cade, or Chair Cade, I would invite you to change the agenda order slightly and go with presentation from President of the Prayerland Economic Development Corporation, Mr. Matt Buchanan.
Okay. All right, we're going to switch up the agenda just a little. Item 4 on our agenda, number 2, we're going to do that one first. So, Mr. Buchanan, without further ado, if you're ready.
I'm ready. Thank you. And I appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight. Martin, can you share so I can share my screen? Bring up my presentation.
Working on it. Give me just one moment.
I think Shelby might have to do it since she's the host.
I was going to say, I think that may be something that Shelby has to do. So yeah. I thought I could do a handoff.
Well, Shelby's giving me the handoff. I'll just go ahead and start a little bit. But so tonight I just wanted to give you an update on our strategic plan, which is our Prayerland Prosperity Plan. And I would have been here almost 1 year ago. We adopted this plan back in March. The City Council adopted it. Our Board of Directors at the Economic Development Corporation adopted it. And then also the Chamber of Commerce adopted it. And, you know, as our community continues to grow, you know, it's essential that we have a strong economic development vision to guide its progress. And obviously PDC has been entrusted with a significant amount of public resources. So it's important that we have some type of long range strategic plan, you know, to guide a consistent, rational use of those resources over time. And PDC has a central role in carrying out economic development activities in the community. But, you know, this plan is not our plan alone. It's a community plan. City has responsibilities, the chamber has responsibilities, and many others in the community have responsibilities in the plan. It's not anything that PEDC can do alone. Shelby, are you able to give me permission to share there?
Sorry about the delay, Matt. Yes.
Thank you. Just give me here just 2 seconds. All right, everybody see my screen there now? Thumbs up. Okay. So just went over this a year ago, but just for many of you I know are new to the commission and just want to make sure you understand. So we would have done a whole community stakeholder input, interview focus groups, and then we did an assessment of the community, you know, talking about, you know, where has the community been, where do we stand today, you know, where are we heading, and identify the strategic plan implications of that. And then we also went back and looked at assessed our previous plan, which was our 2020 community strategic plan. And if you're familiar with our current comprehensive plan, the economic development section of that plan is our 2020 community strategic plan. So this, we go and begin our new comprehensive planning process, this will probably be incorporated into the city's comprehensive plan. So it's not really a separate document. It'll be part of the comprehensive plan, just like our 2020 community strategic plan is. Then we got the strategic plan, and then we have an implementation guidelines, and I'll kind of go through tonight and give you some ideas of implementation. So then this is our group. We have an implementation committee that meets at least 4 times. I think this year we're meeting 5 times, and we go over many of these items. They are, champions of the plan. They're supposed to make sure that we're keeping the plan going, that it's still on track, that we're doing these things, representing the city, the PDC board, chamber, just businesses at large, nonprofits. Your very own Brandon Dansby is our chair of this committee. And Henry, I know in 2020, Henry was on the planning committee and was also on the implementation committee when he was on planning commission many years ago. So a good group of people that represent a variety of entities in the city to make sure we're keeping the plan moving and that we're doing those things. So the framework of the plan, we have 2 overarching community goals. Then there's 7 focus areas to carry out those 2 goals. And then each one of these focus areas has strategic initiatives under it, usually probably 3 to 6 strategic initiatives under it. And I always like this image to your right because all these things are interrelated as a community. Not one of them is more important than the other. All of them are important to keep our community moving forward. So our 2 community goals are economic growth and diversification, provide opportunities for our residents to prosper and enhance Prayerland's physical sustainability through a holistic approach to economic development. We say holistic economic development. I think sometimes people think, okay, we just got to go out and get that business, give them incentives and get them to locate in the spot. But, holistically, if you look at economic development and what's happening now in our country and has been happening for many years, place is really important. And that's where I think the Planning Commission really comes in because you're, making sure that we continue to have a place that people want to locate in and that we have a quality community, not just growth for growth's sake. And then the second one is a community of choice in Greater Houston, ensure that Prayerland's quality of life and quality of place continue to attract and retain diverse individuals and families. So we want to continue to be a place. We are a community of choice in the Greater Houston area. We want to maintain that. So here are the 7 focus areas, and I'm going to go through each one of these: business development, business formation and growth, site development, corridors, infrastructure, quality of life, and quality of place, and workforce and talent. So the first one, business development, engage in a targeted approach to business attraction, retention. I think that's what most people think about when they think of economic development. Business retention and expansion. Support a vibrant retail sector and proactively communicate the economic development value proposition. So all this information I'm going to go over to is on our Prayerland Prosperity. So we have a separate website for this plan, prayerlandprosperity.com. And all this information, the plan, the assessments, and all the updates, progress updates are all on that website. So I'll kind of go through this kind of quickly tonight to respect all of your time. But, attraction, retention, this picture up at the left is Enders Hauser. That's our newest company. They just opened here in November, December timeframe, but they're right out at Beltway 8 and Kirby. It's been a project we've been working on for about 3 years. Great looking facility, office building. HCA Houston Healthcare is building their new clinical center for advancement in the town center. Is another great project that we've done on traction this year. We have our BizConnect program that we do in partnership with the Chamber. This is one of our industry appreciation luncheons that we have virtually, of course. And then retail, we have a retail plan. We were getting ready to do our retail strategy, but with COVID, we decided to hold off, and we'll probably start that the second half of the year. And the last area there is proactively communicate the economic development value proposition. PDC just celebrated our 25th year, and we've brought, I think, over 5,400 jobs and over $1 billion of investment to the community. And that's all on our website, the 25 years of infrastructure, quality of life investments the corporation's made in the community. And so we're always communicating. And then our Prepare to Love It campaign is our marketing campaign that we promote the community. Hopefully you've seen that around. We do it for both attraction and for internal purposes. Business formation, early stage growth, ensure Prayerland's business climate and supportive services are optimized for enterprise formation and growth, establish a hub for entrepreneurship, and establish a revolving loan fund to incentivize primary employers. And so on the business climate and support, we've been communicating throughout the pandemic to our businesses about the resources that are available. You'll see we've got a dedicated small business resource on our website. And then we've just worked with the community development department to purchase a software program that'll be web-based called Open Counter. And it'll be a one-stop website with excellent mobility functionality to serve as a virtual front door for people that are looking to start a business or grow their business in Prayerland. We'll have all the zoning code information, really on the regulatory side is what it is. John and Martin are heading this up and getting this started. And then the other thing that you see in the top left here, feasibility analysis for Prayerland Entrepreneurship Hub. So we are researching right now, working on a business model to start up a hub for entrepreneurship and small business assistance in the community. And that was something that was really called for in this plan and is one of our priorities. Site development and site development corridors have a little bit of overlap, but position the Lower Kirby District and the State Highway 35 corridor as priority areas for development. Proactively assemble and prepare sites to eliminate the burdens related to acquisition and development and ensure best-of-class infrastructure and amenities. And so a lot of this is what we do in the Lower Kirby area that we've been doing for many long years with all the development you see on the Kirby corridor. But, we're building parks and trails in the Lower Kirby. This is our rendering of our sign. You saw the Andrus Hauser photo just a minute ago. South Spectrum, we just extended that over in front of Mitsubishi as a part of the Ivy project. On State Highway 35, we did the streetscape projects. We just finished those up last year, 2019. And then, as many of you know, the Rice Dryer redevelopment area we've been working on. This is our new reconstruction of Rice Dryer. But, the Planning Commission would have first saw this project probably 3 years ago or 2 years ago when we did the PD. And this is all part of our 2016 State Highway 35 corridor redevelopment plan that the Planning Commission and Council would have adopted that has all of our redevelopment efforts on the 35 corridor. So that's a little bit about site development, some of our things. Corridors, the 288 corridor master plan that we've been working on for about a decade now in conjunction with the transportation improvements that you see going on and the recent opening of the toll lanes. State Highway 35 corridor redevelopment plan, which I just mentioned. We just adopted, and I think I spoke to you last about 4 or 5 months ago on our Broadway corridor plan, and then continue to beautify our corridors and gateways. So 288, we are getting ready to we're probably about $5 million into a $20 million plan to really make the 288 corridor look like it should. New lighting, new sidewalks, new curbs, new gutters, better drainage, retention ponds with fountains and decorative walls, and then a significant amount of landscaping in the corridor. So that's ongoing. We formed a management district 35 redevelopment plan. I just spoke about a little bit. And then Broadway 518, the plan that coincides with the Tech Stop project to reconstruct Broadway from 288 all the way over to 35. And we presented that to you in depth about 3 or 4 months ago. And then beautification areas, we continue to build more corridor entries. They're at Colon, Prayerland Parkway, 35, Dixie, Kirby, and our newest one's going in at Shadow Creek Parkway and 521. And you should see construction start on that later this year. Infrastructure and mobility, obviously a growing community. We're always working on infrastructure and mobility. I think the work will never be done, but the first is to advance the planning, design, and construction of priority roadway projects, and then which goes hand in hand with pursue federal, state, and local funding for those transportation projects. The city's been very aggressive and very successful. Trent Epperson, Robert Upton, their teams carry out this focus area for the most part. But we always need to be working to bring more state and federal funds. McCard Road, which is currently under construction, which you see there at the bottom left. That's a big project where we've gotten significant federal funding to do that road. But Bailey, many of the roads that you see in our community, Dixie Farm Road, Colon Road, 518 that's going to get reconstructed. All those are projects that we've done with state and federal funding. Mass transit, the city's getting ready to enter into an agreement with HGAC to do a transit mobility study for us, to do a big master plan, to really look at all the different potentials for transportation, transit, really, especially as it relates to connecting to major employment centers. And then advanced infrastructure projects that improve drainage and storm channels. As many of you know, the Clear Creek project is underway right now, that the Corps of Engineers has funded, the federal government funded after Harvey, that Harris County Flood Control's doing, is about a $300 million project to widen Clear Creek all the way from Dixie Farm all the way to 288. It's going to be probably one of the largest infrastructure projects, if not the largest infrastructure project ever done in our community. And so the city is working with Harris County and DDD4 on that project. And then the city and DD4 also just requested funding for Hickory Slough to do a significant, almost $100 million project there. And then the city has many smaller projects that were approved as part of the bonds and other projects that they've gotten state funds for. I didn't mention Makawa there, but that will be another project that should hopefully start construction in 2022 that will reconstruct it all the way from 518 all the way out to the Beltway and really make that road have the capacity it needs. And then I already touched on 288. And so the last two focus areas, pursue the development of dynamic walkable mixed-use districts, advance catalytic anchor projects to support vibrant mixed-use districts, develop the park's multimodal master plan, and then diversify and maintain Pearland's housing stock. So pursue dynamic walkable mixed use. We're always working on dynamic walkable mixed use districts. The Ivy is an example of that. To the area north of there is also an area that we would like to see that type of mixed use development in to complement what we have at the Prayerland Town Center. And then, catalytic projects that could be part of these, would be, as many of you know, we've worked on an indoor amateur sports facility and a hotel conference center, and hopefully both of those would be part of some type of mixed-use project. The park's multimodal master plan, I think you've had a presentation to that recently. That was recently just approved. And then diversify and maintain Pearland's housing stock, I think will be done. That strategic initiative will be done as a part of the comprehensive plan. That bottom left, if you haven't seen, that's the Ivies. That's the apartment building that's in for permit right now with the city as part of that mixed use development. And then this is the area we probably have the least so far. We're going to really be kicking this one off later this year, but connect and enhance Pearland's talent pipeline with a collaborative approach, and really, working on workforce and the availability of talent is the most important issue every time we talk to a company and with all employers. So it's important that we have, a formal framework dedicated to strengthening Pearland's talent pipeline, ensuring that employers have access to competitive workforce. So we're going to be working with the chamber and setting up a process to really go through and look at some real initiatives that we can be doing in workforce. And then the other one is, promote diversity and cultural of inclusion in Pearland and engage Pearland's young professionals and emerging leaders. And that, I think, will all come out of the staff that we're proposing to hire as part of the workforce and talent initiative. So that's everything in a short 14 minutes, but I'm happy to take any questions. There's a lot in the plan. It's kind of a hard document to go through in a short period of time. But I think we're off to a good start. Got off to a little bit of a slow start with the pandemic starting, but the committee ended up meeting 4 times a year, and I think we're off to a really good start in implementation. This will be a 5-year plan, so it's, we've got many years left. But some of these initiatives with the corridors and things we've already had a good start on. I've already got a lot of the planning, so it's really about focusing on implementation. So Lanny, that's all I have, but I'd be happy to take any questions or comments from any of the commissioners. Lanny, I think you're still muted.
Oh, sorry, I was talking away. Commissioners, questions or comments? Y'all jump in.
None for me. Great presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Henry.
None from me also.
It was very good and very interesting.
Thank you.
I was I was happy to see the rice dryer thing come up again.
Yeah, we're making good progress there. We've got 2 phases of the infrastructure. There was 3 big phases of the infrastructure. First doing the detention, then we've reconstructed Rice, and then we're under design right now for Halleck, and would hope to, by August, be bringing that forward for approval to reconstruct Halleck, and then that'll really get that area to have a really robust infrastructure. And then we're getting some new development in there with ERS CAT and some other businesses in there. So I think it's really taking that area and make it a lot better. You know, considering we had a super fun site and a old elevator that was falling apart and stuff, I think we've really made a good dent in that area. It's really turned around to be an asset for the community.
It's good. Glad. Anybody else?
I just wanted to say that watching your presentation made me think that you guys have been working really hard over these last few years, and that's very much appreciated. The only other thing that I would like to add is I would like to see, I don't know if this fits into y'all's scope of work, but having some of our retail stores, if at all possible, come back to Pearland. I've seen so many shut down due to COVID. I don't know who all gets involved in that process of getting our retail stores back, but I just thought I'd mention that.
Sure. No, yes, we definitely appreciate that. You know, we've done a lot. You know, the city did their small business initiative to, focus on businesses under $2 million in revenue and provide about $857,000 in grants for those companies. And then we've obviously been trying to make sure all of our local businesses, we just did a special email to all of our restaurants, making sure they understand the payroll protection program, the PPP, has special conditions for them where they can get extra money. So we've really been trying to communicate to our businesses. Our sales tax have, actually surged this past year, which just seems odd, but I think we've got a lot more people in our community that are shopping and a lot more people in our community that aren't spending their money on other things, whether it be travel or other things, and they have more money to spend here locally. So, but yeah, there's definitely going to be a rebuilding process when this is all over. We continue to have people build shopping centers, though. There's never been we haven't had any drop off in that, but definitely, I think our small business initiatives will help towards that.
Is there this is probably a little bit off topic, but shopping locally and eating locally is, I don't know how to incentivize that, but staying in. We've been trying to do that, and I think you actually just did say that we haven't been able to go anywhere as much, but we do. We have been, even if it's going to a store in Pearland and paying a little bit more, rather than going to a big box store. We've been trying to do that to shop local.
The Chamber's really always had that buy local campaign, and they've focused on that in the 10 years since I've been here. I think the other thing, though, that's probably a real positive is just the improvements at 518 and 288. I don't know if many of you drive out that way or on a regular basis. I know many of you live out that way like I do, but the improvements that have been made at that interchange underneath with the extra lanes has been a game changer out there, and traffic is just so much easier now. Even on the weekends, traffic, I think, moves smoothly. There's still traffic, which there's going to be, but traffic really moves smoothly out there. So I think long term, that's going to really help the businesses out there, and then maybe change a little bit of the perception of many people in our community that have the choice to go maybe to I-45 to shop versus going to 288 to shop. I think hopefully that will change their opinion is when they see how much smoother it is to go that way now. Now, obviously, we have one more big construction project that's going to come up on 518. But I just think it shows you that the short-term pain of the construction that goes on out there, how much easier and better the traffic can move with, turn lanes, dual turn lanes in every direction, just has been a game changer underneath that interchange and making that interchange really much more efficient.
And that's a good point. And there's so many good places to eat out there, and and the traffic is significantly different than it used to be. Yeah, thank you for pointing that out.
This is Commissioner Earls. I actually have a question. Great presentation, Mr. Buchanan. Is there a consideration or a tracking mechanism to know how many local contractors, planners, architects, engineers that are working on these projects to make sure that we have some diversity and inclusion on these projects?
Sure. I'm probably not a good spokesman for our purchasing policies and how they work. There is a preferential treatment for local businesses when it comes to purchasing. And I know the city at City Council's retreat on Saturday, they were actually talking about that, about is there a way that, historically underutilized businesses can be given preferential treatment. So that's something the city I know is looking in, and it is a topic of conversation, but I would not be probably the best person to speak on that and what's going on. That'd be better for our purchasing people.
Understood. Thank you.
Yeah.
This is Commissioner Boswell. I just wanted to comment and say I do appreciate the plethora of information you always give us, keeping us informed. So I am excited and appreciative of the work that has gone into this, and I just look forward to seeing the final outcome.
Thank you.
It's an exciting place to live.
Yeah.
Hey, Matt, this is Commissioner Eisenberg. Doesn't the city already give any local business or contractors or engineering and such, don't they already give them like a 10% buffer?
Yeah, and that's what I meant. But yes, sir, they do. They do. You're correct. For bidding, they do. But then when it comes to professional, professional services is a little bit different when it comes to how they're chosen. So I'm not for sure on professional services if they like an architect. I don't know if they get any type of preferential treatment, but someone that's doing goods and services, they definitely do.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Great presentation, man.
Thank you.
Thanks again, Matt.
Okay, thank you.
Then Shelby, if you'll give me the prisoner role again, I appreciate it. All right, and with that, we can go to the next discussion item.
Okay. I think the next discussion item was the first discussion item, correct?
Correct.
All right. This discussion input on modifying the joint public hearing, special meeting format for the planning and zoning issues. This is what we think. This is kind of back to what we talked about our last meeting, isn't it? To where the public hearings are held separately. First with us and then with City Council.
Correct.
Okay. And is John going to talk to us about this? John McDonald, Mr. McDonald, are you here?
Yes, I am. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Good evening, Commission. Thank you for having me tonight. I wanted to talk to you about the opportunity that's coming forward with Council to amend the UDC to look at a different way to hold public hearings. Coming out of 2020, the mayor and administration were discussing how to get council and meetings back into the chamber. And there was some concern about coming out of that, how would joint public hearings and joint special meetings work because of the number of people in the room, the location of the dioceses, et cetera. So coming out of that, a item was presented to council back in January to discuss the possibility of separating those hearings to have, as the chair stated earlier, presentation and a joint a public hearing before the Planning and Zoning Commission, and then a consideration, another public hearing before council. And so I understand Martin did speak to y'all a couple weeks ago. I'm sorry I could not join y'all that night, but I wanted to kind of go over with y'all what we were thinking before the public hearing on this item, the joint public hearing on this item on March 15th. One of the concerns I heard coming out of that last meeting was that was this just a solution to COVID, or was this a way to change? And so what we're proposing is we're going to leave the existing language in the code and add a secondary track that would allow separation of the meetings. And this way, council could decide which way they wanted to go based on the approval of a resolution and not have to amend the code back and forth depending. So if this passes here in the next month, and then council does approve a resolution going with the separated model, let's say in 8 months or a year when everybody's vaccinated and council wants to change it, or if the commission at that time requests the council look to reverting it back to how it is now, then they could do that by resolution and not by actually having to go through the longer process of amending the code. So what we have for you is that the way it would work as a separate is that first off, notifications would still follow state law. P&Z hearings, we would do mail outs to everybody within 200 feet. For the council hearings, we would run a legal notice in official papers. This is on top of, as required, 72-hour minimum notice of a posting of the agenda on both the website and the bulletin board outside City Hall. Because the meetings are joint now, these are both run together for that meeting, but if we separate them, then we would do, again, mail outs for P&Z targeting the neighbors, and then legal notice targeting the city. And this would allow good coverage, provides multiple opportunities for people to speak. So again, this affects zoning and UDC amendments. Conditional use permits would, because the conditional use permit is not technically a zoning issue, there would only be one public hearing before City Council, but this timeline would still be set up where the applicant would present their request to the commission first. Staff would give a presentation on that, and then the commission would be able to give feedback and direction to staff that we could take forward to council and present to them in our presentation to them at their hearing on that conditional use permit. We did do a poll of cities in the neighborhood, as well as some other cities that we compare ourselves to, and we found that none of these cities hold JPHs. The last city that we know of, Friendswood, used to have it, but about 2 years ago they got rid of it because it just drew the process out. Typically, joint public hearings, if they're held by cities, are to speed up the timeline. We have a pretty good timeline. We believe we can meet that timeline even on a separated public hearing track. So just to show that the joint public hearing, the way we do it is the outlier for municipal government. So again, to summarize, we would keep in the code the way it's done today. We would add a second track that would allow a separated process where an item would come first to the commission with a recommendation to the council. The council would have their own hearing and consideration. We would try, I think, and Martin can speak to this, he's looked at the timeline. We can meet the same timeline as we're doing today with our codes. Additionally, because this would no longer have a once a month joint public hearing, we would allow additional opportunities for applicants to submit their requests, because a public hearing could be done at any council meeting or any commission meeting based on when that application comes in. So from that standpoint, that change would allow greater opportunity to the applicant to get their item before the commission and the council, and then would allow that to keep going. This would not add any additional cost to the applicant, and it wouldn't slow the process down. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
Hey, John, this is Daryl Eisenberg. Hey, I thought the whole purpose of us meeting as a JPH was that we all got the same information at the same time. So it wasn't like you started a question at one end of the room and get a different thing on the other end of the room, where everybody that was viewing it was seeing the same thing at the same time and got all the information, the questions, everything that we did all together there at that one night. With separating it out, you know, how, you know, do you think it's going to be better by doing that?
I think it will, because what it does, it allows the Planning and Zoning Commission to operate as a true recommending board, because they will hear the item first. They can interact with the applicant first, and they can prepare a response without the council's participation in that. What we have seen in the past is we've seen items go before a joint public hearing, or where the commission, you can tell, maybe has more concerns and questions, but say council's for it. Well, now the applicant knows that they have a better shot at council. Let's just get through the commission. It doesn't really matter what they say. We'll get the council vote. The idea is this allows the commission to weigh in on the item. If there's an issue with neighbors or with what they see as a concern with how the code's written or how it may lay in the community, they can address those issues and seek a clearance of those prior to it moving forward to council. So I think from that standpoint, it actually strengthens the commission's role in the process.
Okay, thank you.
This is Commissioner Earls. My question is, this just forces our resources as far as staff to attend separate meetings, correct? Have we thought about how that affects them on, I guess, double duty?
Our staff already attends every P&Z meeting and every council meeting. This would actually reduce one meeting, because that joint public hearing wouldn't happen. Right now, on that third Monday of the month, which is typically when the joint public hearing, joint special meeting is held, staff attends those meetings, and then afterwards P&Z meeting as well. So it makes a long night for both the commission and for staff. So from a staff perspective, this would be the same workload.
Okay, thanks. I appreciate it.
This is Commissioner Boswell. I guess my comment, and it's more so for my fellow commissioners, is I know that when we were first presented this information, a lot of us echoed wanting that interaction with council, you know, the fluctuation in voices, just really being able to receive feedback off of each other and bounce ideas off of each other. And I guess my stance changed once I realized that this had already gone to council and council was fine with it. And they said that they trusted planning and zoning to meet as a commission and formulate our opinions or whatever the case may be, and then bring them back those findings. And so I guess my question to my fellow commissioners is, does that change your stance that it doesn't seem that they care as much about that interaction or that immediate interaction, and that they're more comfortable with us meeting and then just receiving our feedback, that they have the confidence in that? Does that sway you any, or does everybody still feel the same?
I've got a question. This is Commissioner Eisenberg. I've got a question in that our it says we'll prepare a statement for city council. We'll prepare, you know, our findings or whatever. Who's going to be responsible for getting that together, or will it just simply be the minutes of the meeting?
Well, kind of how we see it now, and obviously we can talk about this some more, is that as the commission discusses the item and considers the item, certain points will rise to consensus. And as part of that discussion, it could be specifically stated, we would like to share these comments with the council. The idea is we would provide a summary of the meeting as well as a copy of the minutes. And so one of the things that we are planning on doing is bringing forward to you in one of the upcoming meetings an item to look at your rules of procedures to define how this public hearing would be held, what the process would be, and so y'all could be satisfied that the process meets your requirements, and that could be fleshed out within those rules of procedures.
It's still going to hold true, John, that we don't have a voting process in this, correct?
You have a vote. It's the same process as today, right? Where there's a public hearing and then the commission goes and votes on a recommendation on a joint public hearing on a zoning item. And then that vote, which is what we do today, we put that vote and any specific comments, highlights of that meeting, we put into the council's item for their consideration and vote. Now, for a conditional use permit, you don't have a vote today. You wouldn't have a vote in the future, but we would take your consideration and your comments from that hearing, that discussion item before y'all, that presentation, and we would include those in both our written agenda item to council and then in our presentation as well.
Well, I know that when we used to have a vote in conditional use permit, you know, it seemed like we had a little bit more skin in the game than what we do now.
Agreed.
And I understand with the conditional use permit that when that process was changed, I guess 2.5 years ago, when there was a committee put together and they reviewed, and based on discussions with the city attorney's office, that conditional use permits were not a zoning related item, and so they changed the process. They still wanted to hear your concerns or your input and your comments, but I think one of the highlights as well was maintaining a faster process for CUPs. What we're trying to do here is, even if we separate that joint special meeting, that the commission is still a part of the process. The applicant will still come before the commission and speak to you all about it. The commission will still have an opportunity to share comments, and those comments will be forwarded to the city council. And again, this is a process that is coming out of dealing with COVID, obviously. And as we get through this, council can just as easily with this resolution process change it back to everything being joint again.
This is Commissioner Fuertes. I appreciate the extra thought and comments tonight. I guess the only thing that gives me heartburn is that I appreciate the council's feedback in our interactions with them, especially when we did these things in person. It just gave me more insight, and I think especially for the state that we're in as a board, there's a lot of new members, there's returning members, and it just was a good education for us to hear. You know, one of us is not smarter than all of us, and all of us together are, of course, are a lot smarter than any one of us, and so I guess that's where I'm coming from. The only other concern I have, I'm hearing you say the applicant comes to us and then the applicant's going to go in front of the council. For a CUP, that's an extra time that the applicant needs to come or join us. So, you know, there is a little bit of burden on that applicant. I understand he's he or she is the applicant and they, you know, if they have an extra burden, that's maybe that's acceptable. But you know, I remember sitting, you know, or when I was on the P&Z in my prior stint, there were people coming from Dallas and from Oklahoma and from, you know, all over the country at times. And for them to make an extra trip to do an extra presentation is a burden on them. So, but not a, it shouldn't be that big a deal. And maybe they can do these things remote since we're being, we're all learning how to do these meetings remote, right?
Exactly. And that is a option that we will continue to use, is the remote participation. One of the questions that the chair spoke to me about a few weeks ago was the possibility of a commission meeting in the chamber again. And that is something that we are looking to finalize, that opportunity for the commission to return to the chamber. And that would be obviously at the discretion of each individual commissioner. And so you would have, as council is today, a live part and a video virtual part. And so moving forward, any applicant could still appear virtually if that works out best for them.
Thank you.
Don, one thing that I see that's a big plus for it, especially on CUPs, is that once we've viewed it and the public has seen it, then it gives them another week to get ready to go before council. So if they do have some objections and stuff, they have a little bit more time to get their information and stuff together to get to council after some of the questions that we've answered and that we've asked.
But that's a good point, sir, because you'll remember, I mean, obviously there's been meetings where items have come up and we're trying to solve those on the fly, right? We're asking questions, the council's asking questions during the meeting to try to glean, if we make this change, how will this affect you? And this would give both, whether it be a public hearing item, a zoning item, or a conditional use permit, that applicant time to consider those questions and then be able to respond to them, because again, the council will know that they've had a week or two to look at that item and consider that, and did they address it or not.
Commissioners, any other questions or comments?
This is Commissioner Boswell again. I guess my last comment would be, I know that we'll continue to work out the logistics of how this will work if the procedure changes. And my comment would be that if minutes are taken and those are going to be presented to council for review concerning our input or opinions, that someone, and if it couldn't be us as an entire group, if there was a designated person that was allowed to review those minutes before they're presented to council, so that someone can sign off on feeling like everything that was discussed or that was of concern or opinion for the commission is going to be received by council.
No, definitely. I think that's something we can look at and include in those rules of procedure, whether it be a role the chair could take on or if a commissioner is appointed to that. But definitely the minutes, once Shelby makes those complete, can be sent out to somebody to look at, just make sure we're not missing something, or if there was a point that they feel should be stressed, that we can highlight that. So I think that's something definitely we can look at to finalize through a rule procedures modification.
Okay, thank you.
Perhaps even 2 or 3 of us instead of the whole group. If the whole group doesn't want to do it, I'd be happy to be part of that group. This is Henry again, sorry.
Yeah, I think as long as we keep it under a quorum, we can send it to a couple of y'all and get some feedback on that. So definitely, I think, and again, I think we don't have all the answers right now. A lot of this we'll figure out through those rules and procedures, but I think it's an opportunity to try something different that may allow a little smoother process right now with all the issues with the pandemic that we're dealing with. And then again, 6 months, 8 months, a year down the road, as things start to normalize, the discussion can be had on whether you keep it this way or do you move back to what it was.
Hey, this is Lawrence over with the legal department. I just wanted to suggest, like, I understand where we're going with the recommendation on the minutes and having somebody review those before they get forwarded to council. And I would just say that we can't create an issue where minutes get approved by P&Z and there's this pre-approval process or this some sort of process that could create confusion if they're not the same. So what I would suggest, as John has said, is, we're still working out the details. Those details might be sending draft minutes out to people instead of the minutes as part of the P&Z approval process. And if you think that something needs to be added, you just notify Shelby in the draft minutes. And then, we're sure to capture anything that's missed by anybody who so cares to enhance those or add or correct anything. But then when the final minutes are done, that's actually the final action by P&Z. And there's no action, there's no letter saying, yeah, these are right, could later be changed. And I'm only mentioning that because this meeting is currently being broadcast. Somebody might be thinking that we're doing some sort of a pre-approval process or something like that. I don't want to create an expectation or confusion in regards to those lines.
Well, I just want to say thank you very much for allowing me the time to share this with you all this evening. And we will take your comments and we will include these as we move forward and prepare our agenda item for JPH so that council is aware of these concerns and questions you've expressed as y'all begin your discussion in 2 weeks. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving on the agenda, I think we're at item 3 now for commissioners report. Let me see. We are commissioners activity report. All right, commissioners. Does anybody have anything?
Hey, Laney, just a little note to everybody that tonight I've texted with Daniel. He was in the hospital for about a week. His wife was in the hospital over the weekend, but they're both out. They're doing a lot better. They just don't have any energy. So just everybody just needs to keep him and his family in their prayers and stuff. They lost there was one of the coaches, I think probably everybody saw it on social media, that was in the archery club. One of the coaches that lived in Sugar Land had passed. So, this COVID's real, and we need to do. I mean, I can't express to everybody to get out and get their shots and stuff enough. I got my second one. It did cause some discomfort and stuff, but from what I've seen, it's a lot better than what Daniel and them are going through right now. So just make sure that we just keep him in our prayers and stuff.
Thank you.
Thanks for that, Daryl. This is Commissioner Fuertes. I just got over COVID. I actually picked it up around the end of the first week of February. And it was nothing. The first week was nothing, a minor cold. And then when it moved down into my chest, that changed everything. So there were two, I'd say about a week and a half of bad times. I definitely can sympathize with Daniel, and I will definitely keep him in my thoughts. and try to reach out to them. I had no idea, and thank you for that, Daryl. But yeah, I echo what you say. What I've understood from listening to some medical blogs or whatever you podcast, whatever you call them, if you get symptoms after your shots, that's actually your immune system reacting to the shot, and therefore that is a sign that you are not exempt. What's the right word for it? That you're not. I'm sorry.
Immune.
Immune. Your immunities are there. So, congratulations, Daryl, on your second shot. And I hate to say it, but I'm glad you got a little discomfort with that. That means that's a good thing. And thank you. That's all I have. And don't forget, we still need to address that one item from earlier that Lawrence researched.
I'm glad Daniel's a little better. I hope everybody fared well during this bad weather week and no broken pipes. I don't have really anything else to report.
Chair Cade, I would suggest returning back to item B, so that way we can get an update from Lawrence.
Okay. Let me see, Martin, are you going to move your, there you go. Okay, thank you. Lawrence, do you have an update for us on item B?
Yes, ma'am. I had asked that we postpone this to the latter part of the agenda to see if the difference between the description and bold that says preliminary plat is going to create an Open Meetings Act issue for us, in contrast to the description immediately below that includes the word final plat. Having researched that issue a little bit further, I do think that you can take action on this today. And I would also note that when I looked through the speaker agenda, speaker registrations, I didn't see anybody who has signed up to speak about it, whether it was a preliminary plat or a final plat. And it being a final plat, I do think that we can move forward because the proposed plat was included in the agenda issues and a few other issues that would cause me to say, yes, move forward. But I don't want to render full legal advice in an open meeting that would be subject to attorney-client privilege.
Okay. And we had already read it and had the staff report and everything, hadn't we?
No, ma'am. I don't believe we had the staff report yet. I believe that Commissioner Boswell made the motion to approve and Commissioner Earls seconded it, but I don't believe that we had the staff report on this.
Okay. Okay.
Or we may have, and I was busy trying to research it during the staff report and I forgot it. That is possible, and I apologize if that's the case. And Vince, you already said everything you needed to say.
Well, let's ask Vince.
Yes, sir. Basically, it's the final plat of Stuart Heights, Section 21, to create 66 single-family lots and 6 reserves. It's located in the ETJ in the Lakes of Savannah development. The final plat meets the review criteria listed on the code conformance table. Staff does recommend approval of a final plat of Riverstone Ranch. Stuart Heights, Section 21, because it meets the criteria for approval of a final plat found in the UDC. This slide shows the location of the property in the city of Perrin, ETJ. And the final slide shows the configuration of the lots that will be created by the final plat of Stuart Heights, Section 21. That concludes my presentation.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Earls, do you have any questions or comments?
I do not. Thank you.
Commissioner Boswell?
Nothing from me. Thank you.
Commissioner Dansby?
No, ma'am. No comments. No questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Fortes?
No comments from me. Thank you.
Commissioner Eisenberg?
No comments from me.
Commissioner Henricks?
No comments from me.
Okay, did I get everybody? Dansby, Boswell. Commissioner Boswell, did I get you?
You did.
Okay. I don't have any questions or comments either. So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by raising your digital hand, please. Motion passes 7-0. Thank y'all. Okay. Let me see. All right, our next P&Z regular meeting will be March 15th. This one in an interesting order, but we got it done, guys. Way to go. Thank you all for hanging in there. If nothing else, I don't hear anything else, I'm going to go ahead.
Commissioner Kay, before you adjourn, whether it be Shelby or trying to think of who with Kathleen, how early do you open the meetings for people to join in? Okay, so we had a lot of technical issues and they all kind of came right at the very end. I would just encourage folks to, especially if you've had difficulty with technology, please try a little bit earlier than 6:25 or 6:20. The meeting should be open close to 30 minutes early, and if we need to troubleshoot it, it's a lot easier to do that earlier than when the meeting's supposed to be starting. I know that some of you tried a little bit earlier, but just wanted to say you have at least 25 minutes, if not 30, where you could log in and test your tech. Thank you, Commissioner Cade.
No problem. All right. Again, our next meeting is March 15th, and I'll go ahead and adjourn us at 7:56 p.m. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you all. Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.